Zach is back with another Netflix original review. Alright, you guys, I'm going to be talking about Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones. So it's another comedy stand-up that I'm reviewing today, so it's going to be a little bit different than my normal reviews. Before I start this review, I'm just going to go ahead and say that comedy and stand-up is a lot more subjective than other movies and things like that. So when I say I like the joke, it could be completely different depending on who you are, or what you like and what you think is funny. So I'm just telling you right now for this review, it's almost 100% subjective, because that's just what comedy is. There's nothing I can really base my review off of other than the individual jokes Dave Chappelle makes. For example, if I'm reviewing Star Wars or something like that, there's a story arc I can explain. There's a set piece, the cinematography, there's a bunch of things I can review that are very objective. But in comedy, it's really just about the jokes and how the jokes landed or not. And that's basically 100% subjective, so there you go. I watched the stand-up before it became controversial, so when I was reading and kind of writing what I was thinking about it, it just seemed like an alright comedy to me. But all of a sudden, it became really divisive between two different parties. I'm not even sure what. One group of people, which is kind of I guess you'd say the woke Twitter group or whatever, was saying this is the worst stand-up they've ever seen. It was basically the demon of comedy. Nobody fucking likes it. And the other group was saying that it was basically the second coming of comedy Christ. So it was very divisive, and people were very flip-floppy on it. On Rotten Tomatoes, there was 5 reviews that was reviewed by, professional reviewers, and they gave him a 0%, meaning there was nothing enjoyable about his stand-up at all. And there's a bunch of different things, a bunch of different media outlets and people on the woke Twitter mob and a bunch of other things, they just didn't like the stand-up. And that's just 100% false. There's actually a lot to like about this stand-up, but I didn't think it was the best stand-up Dave Chappelle's ever done. And then there's other people that are saying that it's the best he's ever done ever, just because it was really offensive. I mean, the comedy's called Sticks and Stones for a reason. It's because he's trying purposely to defend everybody. And to be honest with you, I feel the comedy was alright, but the aftermath of the comedy of people kind of bitching at each other and beating each other up over, who's right and who's wrong, and if offensive jokes is alright and if offensive jokes is wrong, that was actually funnier to me than the actual stand-up itself. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you my opinion. I think that this stand-up for Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones was alright, and I'll tell you why. Now, there actually was a lot of jokes that he made that the woke Twitter mob and the media was actually telling the truth about. Some of the jokes were very, very, I guess you'd say, boring or just easily made. And I'm not trying to be trying to just say, oh, Dave Chappelle was being offensive and that's the reason why I didn't like it or something like that. It's not because of that. Now, let me go ahead and tell you, I know a lot about comedy. I've watched basically every stand-up comedian, and I'll tell you right now that comedy is a lot like magic. Now, just listen to me for a second. Don't shoot me, because I'm going to explain. Alright, so comedy is all about misdirection, just like magic is. So you go like this. Alright, this is what you're thinking about. For example, in magic, they'll have something working with their hands over here. They're making you look over here. But in the background, they're doing something else that you're not seeing. And that is where the changing of attention is. So you're thinking something's happening over here, but it's actually happening over here. They're actually fiddling around and they're, switching cards or doing something over here that's kind of in the background that you don't notice. It's actually the same thing with comedy. Comedy is just all about misdirection, just like magic that I was just explaining. For example, comedy is making you think that they're going to say this. They're going to say this one thing over here. But what they're going to do is they're going to turn it and go 180 in a different direction with a funny punchline. So it's about the punchline and about the misdirection that makes it funnier. The better the joke is, usually the better the joke is because the misdirection was guided so well. You know what I mean? The misdirection was guided so well that you never knew where the punchline was coming from. So it's almost like getting sucker punched. You're not ready for it, and then bam, it hits you, and you go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Holy shit, that was hilarious. That's what usually comedy is. And in a lot of the jokes for Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones, you knew where the joke was going. You knew it. You could see it way ahead of time, and it was kind of it didn't catch you off guard at all. And that's why some of the things like that, the media was saying and stuff like that it was kind of lazy. It's because some of it was really lazy. It wasn't unique at all, and some of the punchlines you could see a mile away. So there you go. There's a little, I guess you'd say, a little point for the woke Twitter mob or whatever. A lot of his jokes are actually very funny, and the reason is everyone was in on the joke that Dave Chappelle was going to get beat up for making messed up jokes. That's why the I should say the stand-up's called Sticks and Stones. You know, it's like, hey you guys, stop being such snowflakes. You know, like this is just jokes. Deal with it. It's not my real like thought process on anything. It's just just kind of rub it off, brush it off, done. You know. So that's the funny part, is that everyone was in on the jokes. So the more the jokes were offensive, the funnier the joke was, because you knew people were just going to blast Dave Chappelle on social media. That, at least, is where I find a lot of enjoyment out of his comedy. For example, there's a bit about Jesse Smollett being beat up by Nigerians, and how, like, they're supposed to be, like, racist white people. There were the people that supposedly beat him up, and how they were like, this is mega country, or something like that. That's where it, supposedly, in his witness statement, the Trump supporter said to him. Well, he's saying that it's even funnier that they're Nigerians, because he would just say, like, how they would say that, it's MAGA country, and then, like, call him the N-word or whatever, would just be the funniest thing in a Nigerian accent, which he says it, and it actually is pretty funny. The joke is the absurdity of the situation, and it's annoying that you have to explain jokes nowadays, which is kind of upsetting. He also talks about the LGBTQ community, which he calls them the alphabet people. He has a bit about them, and how he says that the trans community doesn't like him for his jokes, about trans people. But then he goes ahead and says, well, I'm sorry, I don't like making jokes about you guys either. I just can't stop coming up with the jokes. And that was just pretty funny just by itself, that he just can't stop making jokes about trans people. And then he goes on to explain, he's like, well, just the situation of being trans is funny in itself. Like the fact that, imagine like him, but with like an Asian soul in him. He's like, he's in a black body, but an Asian person's, inside his, inside his body. And he does the most racial stereotype, like, facial expression as being an Asian person. And it's so, like, blatantly racist as the joke or whatever, that it's completely funny and absurd. But he knows that it's racist, and he knows that it's absurd. And that's the reason that it's funny, because it's almost like you don't want to laugh at it because it's so bad, but because he's up there on stage in front of thousands of people and he's doing that sort of stuff, it makes it freaking hilarious. So it's just like, I don't understand why people are getting upset, and it's like, the people are just trying to take context out of things that don't. So, take it from me, there's a lot of jokes he does make that are very, very funny, and they're very well done. But then there's a lot of jokes that he usually uses to segue into other jokes that are written, I guess you'd say, written kind of badly or lazily, like the woke media people said. So I give this, I guess you'd say, comedy like a B+. I hope you guys like my review. Beat me up in the comment section if you want to. I don't care. I like all the comments that you guys give me. And please like, share, and subscribe, and do all of that YouTube business. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see ya!